All right, today we're tackling something pretty wild, a climate change solution that comes from, well, a place you'd probably never expect.
Sounds a bit out there, doesn't it? But believe it or not, the answer is a big yes. This whole story is about how our everyday dairy farms are now on the front lines of climate science. And what's so cool about this is that the breakthrough didn't come from inventing some brand new gadget. Nope. It came from finally learning how to read a biological blueprint that's been around forever. So let's get into it. How does this actually work?
Okay, so first things first, we've got to understand the problem we're trying to solve. When you think about the environmental footprint of dairy, what's the first thing that pops into your head? Well, the science points to one really big culprit.
If you break down the entire carbon footprint of a glass of milk, it turns out that almost half of it comes from just one thing, methane. And this isn't from some industrial process, it's produced naturally by the cow as it digests its food.
And to put a number on that, your typical Holstein cow, the classic black and white ones we all picture, well, she releases about 490 grams of methane every single day. Now multiply that by millions and millions of cows around the world, yeah, it adds up fast.
But this is where the story takes a fascinating turn. Scientists figured out that how much methane a cow produces isn't just a random number. A big part of it is actually written in her genes. It's a heritable trait, just like hair color or height in people. And if something is heritable, well, that means you can breed for it.
And that one discovery just blew the doors open for a totally new way of thinking. Instead of just trying to solve the problem from the outside with things like feed additives, people started asking, wait a minute, what if we could just breed cows that are naturally less gassy to begin with?
This idea led to a brand new genetic tool called methane efficiency, or MEF for short. The easiest way to think about it is like a score. The score tells you which cows have the right genetic wiring to naturally make less methane. And this part is key, without making any less milk.
Okay, so you might be wondering, how on earth do you measure the methane from thousands of different cows? I mean, it sounds impossible, right? Well, you don't have to. They figured out this incredibly clever shortcut. They just take a normal milk sample, the kind that's collected every day anyway, and they scan it with infrared light. It turns out the signature of that light passing through the milk is a shockingly accurate way to predict how much methane the cow is making. It's brilliant, totally non-invasive, and easy to do on a massive scale.
And here's the most important takeaway, the absolute key to making this whole thing work. A higher MEF score means lower methane, but it has no impact on how much milk the cow produces or the fat and protein in it. So a farmer can pick the low methane animals without having to worry about hurting their bottom line. It's a genuine win-win.
But a tool this powerful doesn't just pop up out of nowhere. To really get how we can now select for a trait you can't even see, like methane efficiency, we actually have to rewind the clock about 2 decades.
See, being able to spot these low methane genes is only possible if you have a perfect reference map to compare them to, a complete blueprint of a cow's DNA. And the story of creating that blueprint, well, it all started with one very special cow. Meet L1 Dominette 01449. She was a Hereford cow from Montana, and she's basically a science celebrity. It was her DNA that a huge international team of scientists chose to build the very first complete genetic map for all of cattle.
And let me tell you, this was a massive project. We're talking $53 million back in 2004 to map around 3 billion DNA base pairs. For perspective, that's roughly the same size as the human genome. The whole goal was to create this kind of master key to unlock all the genetic secrets for making healthier, more productive cattle for decades.
And what's so important to understand is that this blueprint wasn't a one-and-done thing. The first version was amazing, but it was just the start. Scientists have been upgrading and refining it ever since, with better and better technology. It's that constant improvement, that increasingly sharp and detailed map, that makes all of this modern genetic work possible. So once they had this incredibly detailed genetic blueprint, it didn't just help a little bit, it completely changed the game for animal breeding. Let me show you what I mean.
Okay, so for pretty much all of history, breeding was just about looking at an animal. You'd see which ones gave the most milk or grew the fastest, and you'd breed them. It worked, but man, was it slow and imprecise. Now, with genomic selection, it's a totally different world. A breeder can take a tiny DNA sample from a calf the day it's born, scan it, and almost instantly predict how it's going to perform on all sorts of traits later in life, even really complex ones we can't see, like methane efficiency.
And the power this gives breeders is just incredible. They can see an animal's true genetic potential with way more accuracy. They can make those critical breeding decisions when the animals are super young, and it just turbocharges the speed of genetic progress for the whole breed.
All right, let's bring this all home. We've talked about the problem, methane. We've talked about the genetic solution, this MEF score, and we've talked about the technology that makes it possible, that genomic blueprint. So, what does this actually look like when you put it into practice on a farm?
This, right here, is the proof in the pudding. When researchers actually went out and tested this, they grouped real cows based on their MEF score. And what did they find? The results were picture perfect. The cows with the best genetic scores, the high-efficiency ones, produced way less methane every day than the low-scoring ones. It's not just a theory, the genetics absolutely work.
And the potential here, it's just staggering. The scientists behind this tool estimate that if farmers consistently choose animals with these high MEF scores, they could slash their herd's methane emissions by 20 to 30% by 2050. I mean, think about that. That's a huge reduction, and it's not from some expensive new machine. It's just from making smarter breeding choices over and over again.
And that really brings us full circle to the big takeaway here. That huge $53 million project from way back in 2004, something that seemed like pure foundational science at the time, has now turned into this incredibly powerful, practical tool in the fight against climate change. It's amazing. It really makes you think, doesn't it? I mean, if we can start tackling a piece of the climate crisis by reading a cow's DNA, what other incredible solutions are just sitting there, hidden inside the blueprints of life, just waiting for us to figure out how to read them?